since 1966.
This is NBC4's News Conference with Conan Nolan, Southern California's longest-running public affairs program.
On this edition of News Conference, there are 3 Californians at the center of the impeachment debate. Pelosi of San Francisco, Schiff of Burbank, and McCarthy of Bakersfield. But what about the rest of the state's massive congressional delegation? What are they hearing at their town halls? We talk with Democrat Norma Torres of the 35th District, Ontario, Pomona, and Fontana, and Republican Tom McClintock, formerly of Ventura, now representing Northern California's 4th District, and a member of the House Judiciary Committee. Not helping, Southern California, already with the worst air quality in the nation, now getting slammed by smoke from massive wildfires. What's been the impact? What can be done to improve air quality? And does it require another tax hike? And Chuck Todd opens up on the difficulties journalists in general have, and he personally is having, in navigating the coverage of the Trump administration and the fears that lie ahead with the impeachment process. Good morning and welcome to the Tom Brokaw News Center here at Universal City. I'm Conan Nolan. In a moment, Republican Congressman Tom McClintock, but first, Congresswoman Norma Torres, representing the 35th Congressional District in the Inland Empire of Southern California, Pomona, Ontario, and Fontana. She's a member of the House Appropriations Committee and of the New Democratic Coalition. Thank you very much for joining us.
It's my pleasure.
The New Democratic Coalition, centrist Democrats, we should point out you're a pro-growth, pro-employer Democrat.
Absolutely. The way I see things is in order for us to have good jobs in our communities, we need to ensure that employers also feel that they are being protected and that they are being given qualified workers to take on the jobs that are needed.
Let's talk about impeachment because that dominates everything. If there was a vote on the House floor tomorrow, how would you vote?
I would vote yes to impeach President Trump.
Why?
From day one, after the Mueller report came out, I decided enough is enough. Continuing to stop these investigations, impede investigations from moving forward, asking for assistance from foreign actors into our election to investigate his potential opponents. That's conduct unbecoming. No one is above the law. Look, I was a 911 dispatcher for 17 and a half years. The law is a law. If we don't like the law, then we should work towards changing the law. But the fact is, our democracy calls on us to stand up when one of us falls out of line.
Your town hall meetings, have you had any on this issue?
I've had telephone town halls on this issue, and my constituents support and they want to see what has been taking Congress so long. They're also concerned, obviously, the election is looming, and maybe we should allow them to vote him out of office. And I think that that's an important thing that we need to look at. But we cannot allow this president to continue to set precedents. Precedent setting into engaging with foreign nationals the way he has engaged, into allowing his family and personal attorney to negotiate on behalf of the United States. That is simply unacceptable.
If you vote to impeach, there will be a trial in the U.S. U.S. Senate.
Yes.
An elitist group of 100 people who will decide whether the president is in or out. Why not just let the people decide? Because you have a primary election, a caucus, almost the very next week.
We recognize all of that, and that's why I think that we all start by saying this isn't an easy process that we are investigating. It simply isn't. But shame on us if we fail to stand up for the rule of law, and shame on us if we fail to stand up for our Constitution.
There's a school of thought that says that when it comes to impeachment, that occupies everything. Whatever
yes.
bills you have, it's not going anywhere. But you have something called the Basic Act, which is about students and affording not just to go to college, but to live in the college area where they attend.
What I have been hearing from college students, from community college level to university level students, that they don't have a safe place to live. And about 1 in 10 students are living in their car. So the Basic Aid Act tries to help relieve this situation by providing $500 million to our universities, to our colleges around the country to study. $40 million would be for them to complete a study on what the basic needs assessment of their students are. And then $460 million to put that study into action. It also directs the Secretary of Education to help coordinate We already know the students that are living in poverty because most of those students are already applying for the Pell Grant. So if we have that information, why not streamline it and share that with CalFresh so that they can have access to food stamp or, to fresh products? Those are the kinds of things that I'm working on.
Congresswoman Norma Torres, Democrat from the 35th District, Pomona, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Conan.
We now turn to Sacramento, where we have Congressman Tom McClintock, who represents the 4th Congressional District of Northern California. Some of our viewers will remember he represented Ventura County in the California legislature for some 22 years. Congressman, it's nice to see you again.
Conan, it's great to be back. Thank you for having me.
What say you? You've been opposed from the beginning.
Well, this is silly. The Democrats began agitating for impeachment the week after the election, before the president had even been sworn into office. In the 2018 election that brought Jerry Nadler to power, he was overheard on the very next day on the train plotting their impeachment strategy. They first tried to use this Russian collusion hoax, which has turned out to be a complete lie. They then turned to obstruction, that the president tried to cover up a crime that never happened. In between, we had Stormy Daniels and the Emoluments Clause and tax returns, and now they've stumbled upon a perfectly normal diplomatic discussion that the president had with the president of the Ukraine, and are trying to spin something out of that. So this is all part of an effort that's been going on since day one to obstruct and impede and undermine the legitimately elected president of the United States.
You say that conversation with the president of Ukraine was, quote, perfectly normal, unquote. Some Republican members of the Senate, including Mitt Romney, have a different reading of that. Why do you say it was perfectly normal when the transcript seemed to appear that he was offering money for the defense of Ukraine against Russian aggression in exchange for doing some kind of investigation into his political opponent, that is former Vice President Joe Biden?
The Constitution gives the president the sole authority to conduct our foreign affairs and the responsibility to take care that the laws be faithfully executed. The National Defense Authorization Act of 2017, which is in effect, gave the president a direct responsibility to certify that the Ukrainian government was taking steps to combat corruption before he released any money to that government. Don't forget, and that wasn't even part of the conversation. There wasn't a quid pro quo, but the president was simply doing his duty under the NDAA. So to use that as a pretext for an impeachment, I think is silly. Don't forget, there were 3 leading Democratic senators just last year who sent a letter to the Ukrainian government demanding that it cooperate with the ongoing Mueller investigation. The president was simply asking the government to cooperate in the follow-up investigations that were spawned by the Mueller investigation. There's nothing nefarious about that. It's perfectly normal.
You're a strong supporter of President Trump, but you're also a longtime libertarian Republican who's been very much concerned about government spending. The deficit is up to close to $1 trillion now. It is up something 26%. Are you concerned about the spending out of this Republican White House?
I am very concerned about it. And it's not just the White House, it's the appropriations that this Congress continues to send there. Yes, the deficit, I think, is undermining all of the economic growth that we have been able to produce by the tax and regulatory reductions. We're putting $8,000 of new debt on the credit cards of every family in America on average.
Finally, Congressman, you're one of the few folks I know who went from a legislative career in Southern California to a legislative career in Northern California. Do you miss Ventura?
The legislature, I represented our Channel Islands in Congress. I'm honored to be able to represent Yosemite Valley, Lake Tahoe, Sequoia and Kings Canyon, basically the beautiful Sierra of this state. So I've been very privileged and very lucky in my career.
Tom McClintock, Republican of the 4th District of California, Sacramento, and some of the most beautiful parts of the state. Thank you very much for taking the time.
My pleasure, Conan. Thanks for having me.
Up next, it isn't as bad as it once was, but it's getting worse than it's been. Southern California remains the air pollution capital of the nation, and the fires are not helping. That when we return.